Black patriarch.
I want to pull up a post that Lovia J, who friend to the podcast.
That is my girl. So she's in, that meme that was like, behind every successful woman, there's a group text hyping her up.
Yeah.
I have one. Lovy's a part of that.
She's a part of it?
Yeah, we call
I
ourselves the
love
West
that.
African Voltron. In fact,
Wait, I love this.
Yeah, we do. Cynthia Erivo,
Yes.
West
I love
African
that.
Voltron.
Love it. Who
Yeah,
else
we're
is
there.
on this group text?
Isn't it like, is it Yvonne
a
Orgy?
moment.
Yvonne Orgy's
Yeah.
in there.
Of
Issa
course.
Rae's in there.
I love it.
Gosh, who else? Justino Mokua, who I used to work with at Apple's, on there. Because he's Nigerian. We have a few men too, but it's really the girls who are really driving it. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Yeah.
of
The
course.
women are doing it.
I want to introduce to everybody the reason why we are here today, ladies and gentlemen. These two women are phenomenal. They are amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to put your hands together for Yvonne Orgy and Lovey Ajayi.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Please have a seat. Have a seat. You know that Michael Jackson wrong. Hey. Wait, is Kiki Shepard here? Is this thing clean? Everyone has wrong, and now we have anthrax. Yeah. What's going on? My people, I love y'all. So back to monies. Issa, this thing you did to me the other day. Mind yourself. Oh no, Issa came on some, radio station and she wants to challenge me. Just challenge me anyhow. Not understanding my pocketbook. Justina, come on out here. Abiola from OK Africa. I know he wasn't here, but he sent the OK Africa crew. So these are the people who support us. This is our hype squad. Everyone behind every group text is a dope hype squad. This is the hype squad. And these are the people who are able to help us through the rough times. These are the people who be so honest that they will call you on the carpet, they'll tell you you're wrong. And I'm like, okay, well, hold on. And then in the same breath, they'll show up and love you and hype you and support you. So I we just want to say thank you to all of Black people supporting each other. Don't let them think that you can't have Black friends. Don't let them think that Black people don't support each other. It's a myth. It's a lie. Look at this beautiful squad. Hi, Chaz, Uncle B, play our theme song, please. Yes.
Now's an important time to celebrate us because we need to let it known that it's not a trend that Black women are running things. This is how it needs to be all the time.
Talking about?
Hey,
You're saying something.
Police somebody, find it. Hi.
But won't you hold get their body up and leave to me? I will be undressed in their bra, all see-through. Why can't you do thinking I'll meet you? Hey, only one thing I want to do is flip you. Keep your stone set. I have my own baguette. And I'll be doing things that you won't regret. Little Kim and Queen Bee, so you best take heed. Shall I proceed? Yes, indeed.
My name is Angelica Wandu, and I am the CEO founder of the Shade Room.
Well, I'm incredibly proud of being Nigerian.
This is how you make the connection. Let's create our own avenues to bring each other up. I'm not about the crabs and the barrels. Once a please, then just step on the other hand. No.
Johnny Adeyemi. Oh, what is that? It's Nigerian. We are excellent. You know?
We gotta amplify Africa. All the countries. All of it.
Yo, watch this trailer.
Salud.
Is that you? Yo, when'd you get into a movie?
Really? That's David Oyelowo now.
Come through. Like, have you seen this?
Like he's speaking proper Yoruba.
Is this a Nollywood movie?
Hollywood movie.
The Nigerian takeover right now is not a game.
Wait. So you're Nigerian?
Oh, of course.
You're Nigerian.
Yeah, man.
You know you're not. You're from Brooklyn, right?
Yo, born and raised.
So all y'all Nigerian.
Absolutely.
Okay. Just
What you doing?
about to take my DNA test. Y'all not about to leave me out.
Is this fool checking his swab? Yes, he is.
First of all, coming to America, then Black Panther, now this. No. And I'm not to get in that.
Bruh, you got cavities on that toothpick.
Hey, what's going on? It's your girl Yvonne Orji, the creator and writer of the soon-to-be hit sitcom First Gen. So we're here in the heart of Hollywood trying to gauge people's perceptions of all things Africa. So why don't you join me? We ask them a couple questions. Come on, it'll be fun. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear Africa?
Africa. Black.
Pride.
Ghana.
Ghana. Very specific. Why Ghana?
Because my husband's from Ghana and I have family there.
The creation, where it all started. Black people.
Black people?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Africa, our black culture.
So when I say Africa, you just think Africa?
Yeah, black culture.
Hot. Because it's hot. It's real hot in Africa.
Blood diamonds.
I'm kind of scared. I'm really kind of scared right now.
The motherland.
I think about dance, but what about Africa?
What kind of dance?
African dance.
Can you show us some African dance?
No, not right now.
Mbaba, nde, mbaba, nde, mbaba, nde. No, none of that. Oh, there you have it. The people have definitely spoken, and one thing is for sure, First Gen is definitely needed. We gotta get Africa on the map, guys. So please visit us at firstgenshow.com, sign up for our newsletter, stay up to date with all of our progress, and remember, We are all First Gen.
Excited to be standing here with one of our honorees of the evening. Thankfully, he's one of my incredible friends, Sam Matagoke. We're here at AfroBall 2019. What's the process of implementing Nigerian designs and African pieces into your character?
I'm just blessed to have like a really, really cool production team that's like let me kind of like run with this. I pitched the idea to the producers. You know, the show's now based in Atlanta. It was in Colorado before, and there's a lot of Nigerians in Atlanta, and a lot of them work in tech. Jeff works in tech. I was like, this is not a reach, and they said yes. And at first it started with like the language and like speaking Yoruba.
Speaking Yoruba on set, yes.
My father, and then it started with clothing with Meredith, who's like an amazing costume designer. I said, can we set aside some budget specifically for West African clothing? She said yes. Then I got to start designing. Then I got to like incorporate food, and I'm just trying to do it every way possible I can and infuse that, because I just think it's important that we see ourselves. You know, everyone's normalizing the black experience. I think the African experience is the next one that needs to be normalized.
But my name is Angelica Wandu, and I am the CEO founder of The Shade Room. And The Shade Room, if you don't know what it is one of the biggest black media companies in the world, honestly.
I mean, I don't think there's anyone that doesn't know what The Shade Room is.
Honestly, let me say this. Nigerians ride for The Shade Room. The second biggest population on The Shade Room is Lagos.
I believe it.
Like, I love Nigerians. They ride for The Shade Room.
How do you amplify Africa?
Wow, I amplify Africa by staying true to my culture and always representing for my culture and always never forgetting where I come from. That's how I amplify Africa. So no matter what I do, where I go, that is a part of who I am. Like, that is a part of my identity. You know what I mean? I'm Nigerian and I'm proud of it. And so that's how I amplify Africa. Nigerians, I will encourage you to go back to Nigeria. Nigeria is a great country, and there's a lot of investment that you can make. Put your money back into Nigeria, and so that's how you can amplify Africa, right? Yeah.
Someone mentioned assimilation, that Africans want to assimilate. I actually think it's quite different. I think that a lot of it is cultural preservation, and that Africans, you know, come here and they they have an agenda, number one, and that is to do well and take advantage of what the country has to offer, but also to preserve their heritage since they are no longer connected to that land.
In terms of appropriation, one thing that I think is really interesting is how you do have some like continental Africans that might say like, oh, you're appropriating our culture.
Explain what you mean when you say continental Africans.
When I say continental Africans, I just mean not Americans. I mean non-Americans, so they come from the continent of Africa, yeah. That will say like, oh, well, you're appropriating our culture and you're appropriating wearing dashikis and doing this and doing that. But then they do Nigerian dab. Dab is Black American culture. They want to have a part of our culture. They want to use our type of slang words. They want to say fam. They want to say lit. They want to do all these type of things that we came up with. And it's like, is that not y'all partaking in our Black American culture that we created? It's like, I understand feeling like, oh, you should not wear a dashiki because a dashiki has certain cultural customs and you don't know what you're doing and you're just putting it on. Okay, that's fine. But then that means that I have the right to tell you, you can't say nigga. Because that's a Black American thing. Hey. You can't dab. Hey. That's a Black American thing.
So does everybody agree with what Serena's saying?
I think it's a very and that's basically what I was coming around to, because that's the reason why I don't wear dashiki. Like I remember like when it first got hot, I was like, oh, let me wear one. And I wore one, and at the time I was going to church, and there's a lot of Africans that went to my church, and they were like, where's that from? And I'm like, it almost felt like I was in a gang. Like, I was wearing the wrong colors. I'm like, no disrespect, I'm just not gonna wear this no more.
I don't wear
But the thing was, there was no intersection for, all right, let me teach you. Right. Like, it was just, oh, I'm violent. It really felt like it was gang, like you violate, don't ever let me see you in there again. I was like, okay.
Hi, my name is Portia Bartley and I'm the creator and director of Black Beyond America. I created this series because despite the progress we're making in mainstream media, there is still a very particular kind of limitation when it comes to how Black people are being represented. Restrictions that often revolve around nationality. With the exception of a huge market like Nollywood, popular mainstream media tends to highlight things from an African American perspective. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not the fault of those in front or behind the camera. After all, they can only write what they know. But as Toni Morrison once said, if you have yet to read a book that has not been written, it is your job to write it, which is in part what I'm doing with this series.
Here's a name you may want to remember, Gugu Mbatha-Raw. How many Gugus do you know? The actress is mesmerizing movie audiences with her first lead role in the 18th century. It's a true story called Belle.
We should prepare some extra beds in case our visitors are to stay.
May we wear the new silk?
I will do your hair bed. Oh, say we may wear them, Aunt Mary.
You will not be dining with us, Dido. Let's set the stage for people. So you are the daughter of a British Navy soldier. Your mother is an African slave, and you were sent to be raised by the white side of the family. I had never heard of a story like this, where a mixed-race child is sent to raise by the white side of the family. Had you?
No, I'd never heard of Belle's story, and for me, you know, I first heard about the painting which inspired the director, and it's this beautiful painting of Dido Elizabeth Belle and her sister or cousin Elizabeth, and you know, the two of them are represented relatively equally, and for me that was incredibly refreshing.
Hey Fiona, how is your life?
It is fine.
Young girl, come inside.
Your children are blessed because they have a mother who never gave up on them.
Are you my daughter? Yes, Mom, I am. Yes.
Coach, you told us to make a plan, but I fear things will never change.
What matters is when you reset the pieces.
She's winning. She's winning.
And play again.
Stronger than your bruises, I got thick skin.
An American quite a few times.
Yes.
And so, most notably on The Wire. Yeah.
16 years ago. Can you believe that?
Yeah. That's wow.
I can't believe that.
Well, when did you start to perfect your accent? Because you are believably American.
I used to go to the barber shop to perfect my accent.
That's the place. That's the place.
You know, in an English, if you want to talk about the basketball game in an English accent, it just don't come across as good. You can't get your point across, you know. But so I used to perfect it in the barber shop.
So what's a phrase that you picked up in the barber shop?
Come on, man! Come on, man. No, look, come on, man. No, hold up. You had to segue in. It just didn't work with come on, mate. No? Come on. Pay no attention to me, so.
Not really.
Need to fall back and fall away from taking all of our roles. Like, we have dope, talented, trained, qualified black actors.
See, at this point, I was like, this is going to go left.
And at the end of the day, black Brits just come cheap.
Then it went fucking left.
I agree, somewhat.
Then I was like, okay, so it talk sense.
A black British actor is a better suited than black.
What's this accent, first of all?
Stateside roles because they don't carry the burden of fucked up black American history.
See, if this point was unpacked, it could go somewhere, but it didn't go nowhere.
Really delve into black American shit.
I want to fucking scream.
How can someone so gorgeous and so talented
Oh my god.
be so fucking ignorant?
The irony of this entire conversation.
You're not unburdened, Olu. British ships were the dominant force in the Atlantic slave trade. Almost 2
Black British people know
million
this.
kidnapped Africans who died during the Middle Passage. So you and your mans and your fellow black British blokes,
I could vomit.
didn't come out of the shit unscathed. You just have Stockholm syndrome.
Wow.
You fall in love with your captors. Get all the way the fuck out of here with that nonsense.
What?
My name is Eniwa Boachi. I'm from Streatham, which is southwest London.
Anthony Mark Barrett, and originally I am from Birmingham.
My name is Portia Bartley and I am from Croydon, which is in South London.
Hello, my name is Alexander Gabriel Ajuan and I'm from London. To be exact, I'm from North London, in a small town called Barnet.
My name is Chris Saki and I'm from London, Brixton.
Alright, so tell me about your acting experience in the UK.
Well, it's where I started acting, where I found out I wanted to become an actor.
I mean, I had a great acting experience in terms of theatrically, but I must admit I felt very frustrated in the UK.
And primarily, I had a good career in the UK, but like many other actors, you tend to reach a glass ceiling where you want more work, you want the work to be more demanding, more challenging.
My acting experience in the UK is limited. I actually broke out of my shell and did my acting training not long after I moved to America in 2010, so I kind of did it backwards, if you will.
I went straight from school to the US, so it was slightly different. I went to the Brit School Performing Arts School from 14 to the age of, I believe it was 18, 19, and I came straight over to the US.
I do feel like the UK has a very elitist way of looking at the acting industry.
There is a very strong classical foundation, but just from doing my own research, it didn't seem like they had a lot to offer for those young actors who were doing those contemporary roles and who wanted to do something more than classical.
I kind of felt like because I didn't go to Oxford or RAD or any of those kind of things, I always found it quite hard to kind of break through in the UK as opposed to here, where people are willing to take a risk.
I wasn't finding that the roles were forthcoming, so fate would have me apply for an O1, end up in America, here in California.
I wanted to be somewhere, I wanted a cultural difference, you know, I wanted to still be in the realms of like acting.
And since I've been here, you know, I've been going up for roles as like the sexy girlfriend, the lawyer, the doctor.
I've had an amazing experience. I've had so many opportunities, and I don't know whether it's just because when I decided to come out to the States, I really put my head down in terms of my parents and myself. We were really funding this, like no one else was helping us. I had to do this by myself. So I don't know if that made me just so much more serious and so much more hungry.
It's been pretty fun. You know, I've been able to just be myself, you know, and bring my acting out of it.
You go from these very restricting, like, elite roles where they really want a specific kind of person in the UK to having roles where they just want me to be myself.
Yes, I would definitely say I was attracted to come here for that reason, because there is a lot of opportunities, but also, I know this is going to sound really corny, but there is such a thing as an American dream.
Many people are concerned that black actors are coming from overseas and getting jobs here in Hollywood and kicking out American-made black actors. How do you guys feel about that?
I can't get a job. No, I'm just kidding. No, you know, I mean, it's true. There's a huge British wave. It's been happening for years.
It's a new British invasion.
No question. And I mean, I think there is something to be said for American-born black actors who are not getting these roles, and these are major roles. I mean, this is not any small, roles. I mean, Idris Elba, we talked about before.
Right.
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Right.
I mean, my boy David Oyelowo. I hope I got that right. But, he was in Red Tails. He was in The Butler. I mean, these are major, major roles, and they are edging out folks who would have been up for those roles that are American-born. I think it's
I feel like you should step your game up.
Sure.
I don't play the race card. I don't like to live by that reality. But if you're not working, somebody else is going to take your spot.
This is the accent card.
That's what it is.
Right. It is a competitive business.
I just like to see black folks on film. And we can't keep saying that. It's a new day. We can't keep playing the race card. Oh, we need more.
Well, this
black.
isn't the race
Step
card.
It up.
Right.
Off with introductions, and I just wanted to go down the line and talk to each of you about what your mission is and how you help use your platform to connect to African women and women of color, and just how your mission connects to that work.
My personal mission that I've given myself is to connect the diaspora. I am an African that grew up in the Americas, and so I feel my job is to connect the continental, global Africans, because it's really important for us to recognize that Africanness does not end on the continent. It is right here we are. And so I've given myself the job of connecting those diasporas.
Well, hello everyone. Thank you for having me. I appreciate OK Africa for inviting me. Basically, my job is to be the black woman in the room, to make sure that our voice is heard in the larger stories that are being told about politics. I'm mainly a political journalist, and to make sure that we're not talked about without us being there and having our voice be a part of it. I've had a lot of opportunity to do that with the shithole country's president, who likes to talk about my origins. Both my parents were immigrants. My father was from the continent, so I feel like I need to just be in the room to make sure that our voices are a part of the story and that we're not just sort of spoken about without our presence being part of it. And also keeping in mind, and this, I think, event makes the point, that, not all Black people are African American. My mother was Caribbean, you have Caribbean Americans, you have African Americans, you have people from the continent, and that we all have our own experiences and our own experiences with either enslavement or colonialism, and that hit us all different ways. So I think you can't speak for everyone, but you certainly can speak well for everyone.
And so a few years ago, I started a gathering called African Women Create, because I wanted to celebrate African women in the creative spaces, because I think we still also, as creatives, we still have to fight a little bit, because people still think, you should be, we celebrate doctors, we celebrate mathematicians, we celebrate all the corporate people, but we still, as women, African women who are in creative spaces. So I created that, and I think it's important for us to meet each other, because online is wonderful, but there's also an added step with us meeting in real life, and so that was part of the reason for that.
We just had one team member go on to work for the great Stanley Nelson. She's being replaced by a Black woman who's actually Nigerian in background, who we're moving up into that spot. We're making sure that we never lose the diversity that we have. We would love to have more women from the continent who can be contributors, who could be on the air, and we're always looking. We look everywhere. I look in my Twitter feed for interesting people. I look either whether it's on social media, whether it's on traditional media, whether it's people who are writing. We have a lot of former people from the griot that are now out there writing. Some of whom have moved back to the continent and are writing from there. I stay connected to them. So just build up, I know for me personally, it would be a great thing to have many, many more women from the diaspora that I can draw from.
I think that is the perfect note to end on. Thank you all in the room. Thank you, ladies on the panel here.
Welcome to The Grapevine. I'm your host, Ashley Akunda, and on today's episode, we're going to be talking about bleaching. But before we get into it, let me introduce you to my panel. To the left of me, I have Ngozi, Nadine, King Cap B, Raven, Donovan, Ellen, and Ngozi. And to my right, I have Nemna, Uche, Carl, Uchechi, Sheba, Asabe, Aisha, and Uchenna.
NSA serves as a home away from home for many Nigerian students on campus. This spring, we want to share our home with the rest of the Cal community.
The Nigerian Student Association at Cal is a student-led campus organization.
NSA aims to promote cultural diversity and celebrate Nigerian heritage at birth.
The mission of NSA is to promote the cultural advancement of Africa in the diaspora.
Uniform, we do it for them? We do it for them? Let's go!
Join us in keeping the spirit of cultural pride alive on UC Berkeley's campus. Proceeds will directly benefit campus-wide NSA events, including our annual culture show. We welcome and appreciate any and all contributions. Help Cal Bears embrace cultural expression by enhancing a student's college experience today.
So yes,
even for me, it's interesting to watch like Nigerians take over a chapter. Well, really the whole entire frat, but to see them take over a chapter of the first African American fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha, which is a bastion of African American culture that's derived from the Divine Nine and their history in our community. But to see them take it over while still holding on to xenophobic beliefs against African Americans, you just cannot. You cannot think that your culture is better than mine, particularly when you are participating and benefiting from my culture. You know, we are both cute, we both good, and if you believed all that, why would you pledge in the first place? We welcomed you into an elite function of our culture, so don't turn your nose up now. But there are ways for both of us to be proud about our culture and respect our culture, and because you're participating in it, I mean, you have an obligation to learn the history. Like how you pledge anyway?
You go off to college, Tufts, right?
To Tufts.
And now the book, as I'm reading, your book apparently started from the first day you set foot on campus because you understood that there were black people and black people.
Right. And so, you know, growing up, I'm surrounded by black people, you know, sort of in our family and friend circle, but I never really teased out sort of ethnicity. Caribbean and African identity, sort of, you know, and Africa is a continent of 54 countries, you know, and so when I got to Tufts and you have the option of going to the Cape, and so that already sets up an interesting dynamic, students who choose to go and those who choose not to go. And some choose not to go because they have other commitments, some choose not to go because they don't want to go. And so unfortunately that sets up a dynamic of why didn't you attend? And so that's being addressed sort of in years to come.
This was the gathering that they offered for black students.
Exactly.
The first,
3 days,
60 students?
60, largest black class at the time, ever. In the history of the university. And so the facilitator asked a question the first day, you know, right there, close your eyes and raise your hands. And, you know, if your parents told you when you get to Tufts, don't get wrapped up with the black kids. It's like, this is an odd question. We're all black on the trip.
We are the black kids.
Right, we are the black kids. And I opened up my eyes and realized that everyone's hands were raised except for the 6 black Americans that happened to be in the room.
Right.
And so we had to really dissect that because that's not something that my parents told me. I mean, my sister was down the road in Cambridge and she was a senior and I was a freshman and I'd been going to visit her almost on a monthly basis for 3 years. But I did not expect that the first day of school.
Yeah. You say in the book that the blacks who were not born in this country were perceived to be higher on the ladder.
Right. And so setting up this dynamic, you know, and even from, you know, freshman advising, right? These assumptions that if your parents were Caribbean or African, that you were harder working, that you weren't on financial aid, that, you know, you came from a successful family, and sort of some stereotypes and assumptions of blacks as essentially last place, right? In the United States, where in many ways it is still a dichotomous relationship of black versus white. And sort of we have lots of diversity in between, but the history of this country is anti-black racism, white supremacy, and patriarchy. Like, those are facts, right? So when you have black immigrants coming in and they're well aware of the history of the United States, many of them argue, why would I want to be with the group that's perceived as last place? So with black immigrants, I found in the interviews and the surveys that I did, these are some of the first immigrant groups who are actually choosing to remain immigrant in a certain capacity, where everyone else wants to assimilate really quickly.
Sure.
This is, you know, I want something that actually keeps me apart from the other, which is the black American group.
You know, and the people, most of them were snobbish, and, you know, when you get on a bus, they used to give you dirty looks and things like that. And then I got fed up and I wanted to go home. But as my mom was here, I stayed on.
Well, a lot depends on the individuals. I think the immigrants are mainly to be blamed because a lot of them come here, this I know as a fact, they come to this country with a chip on their shoulder. They expect that everybody should meet them with a smile. They think they're doing the people here a favor, and they resent a lot of remarks which aren't meant to be really insulting, and they just resent it. They don't stop to find out whether the people are just being human by making a human joke. They are very resentful, and I think those who are prepared to integrate will find success here.
Since I've come to college, the black friends I've made, it's kind of like, oh, you like white guys? Or, oh, you dated a white guy? Why? Like, and it's kind of like, well, the reason anyone dates someone because I like them, you know? Like, it's not, I saw the white guy and I was like, oh, he's white, I'm going to date him. Like, no, that's not how it works out. So it was kind of like a culture shock to me because it was kind of like they made me feel like for some reason I was betraying my culture or some crap like that. And how, I don't know, like, for me, I felt like, what are you trying to say? Like, I'm going against my people. Like, first of all, let's get this straight. I'm Haitian. And in the Haitian culture, when you grow, at least the old generation, as you grow up, they will tell you, you are not Black American, you are Haitian. And what that means is, you know, we don't want you walking around speaking irregular English. You're going to be educated, and basically they raise you up to really not. I don't really know how to explain it. I didn't know there was a way to act black or a way to act white. I didn't know being black meant watching BET 24/7 or talking, you know, like in Ebonics or, you know, dressing a certain way. I didn't know, you know, that's acting black because personally I'm going to be me all day, and obviously you know I'm black because hello. So
I'm Nigerian, so my name is obviously Edo. My dad is from Benin and my mom is Yoruba, so she's from Ibadan. And so I'm half Yoruba, half Benin. And being half Yoruba, half Benin, or half Edo, has caused me to experience Nigerianness in a very unique way, because there is a lot of tribalism in Nigeria. I don't particularly like that word, but that's the only word I can use at the moment to describe what I mean. So most of the time you'll find that people who are Yoruba marry people who are also Yoruba, and people who are Igbo marry people who are Igbo, etc, etc. Nigeria, from the limited knowledge that I have, has over 200 tribes. So that's 200 different ethnic groups of people who have cultural practices and certain languages and histories and etc, etc.
There's some people that have a lot of superiority complexes.
What do you mean about a superior complex?
So I'm gonna go into it a little bit. I'm not gonna rant, but there's a lot of Africans that have this mentality that they're better than African Americans. And I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Facts. There's a superiority complex that comes in, and I think that's a problem at times. Is it their fault? Sometimes I can't blame them. Sometimes I can, because when we came here, a lot of our parents, they came here and they saw how African Americans treated them, and it was bad. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yo, we're all the same people. Why are you treating? No, but as we have advanced,
I think it's different.
As we have advanced, as Africans have come here and become business owners and have become very educated, there's a pedestal, right? There's a pedestal that they put themselves on, and they look down on certain African Americans, like, oh, you people, you rely on welfare, you rely on this, you don't pick yourself up.
Black patriarch